And good evening. Welcome to Dave's Tacklebox on vaportrails.tv. It is Sunday the 1st of March 2015 and it's 9 o'clock in the UK, the centre of the universe. On tonight's show we got a couple of little quite short VT clips for you. One with Dave and Sav talking about lungs and mouth. That's intriguing, isn't it? And there's another one where I'm having a little rant about something that really bugged me the other day on Twitter. I'm also going to be looking at some stories in the news, e-cig related of course, from during the last few days. Some good, some quite worrying actually. And there'll be bits and bobs as we go along as usual. I do understand, if you're watching this live, we've got some problems with our chat software. The best solution that we have just figured out, just before we went live, is click the little button to pop the chat out. So you've got it in a separate window, then you can refresh it to update the screen without having to refresh the whole page with the video. So that'll make life a little bit easier if you're trying to use chat during the show. I'll play the titles and then we'll get cracking. And we're back. That was weird. That was weird what that computer just did. But it doesn't matter. We got the right result. I think I'll start tonight. I will start by just giving you a little update. Right at the end of last week's show, I built this UD Goblin tank, if you remember, and it basically took up the whole show, didn't it? It's still working. As you can see, it's still working quite nicely. I've been messing around with the wick on it a bit because it's been a little bit leaky. Not terrible, but just like, leakier than I'd want it to be. So I've been messing with the wick, and so far I haven't cracked it because I'm convinced it's the way that I've wicked it that's making it leak a bit. But I haven't had a chance to really sort it out, but I will. And if I discover anything revolutionary, I'll let you know when I do it. But it's basically still working and it's quite enjoyable. But yes, because of that, taking all of last week's show, I sort of crammed in right at the end of last week's show a bit of a mention about Richard Pruin, and he was running a crowdfunding thing on a site called GoFundMe to raise funds to go to the IEEE, I guess it's a convention in Chicago, to talk about battery standards for e-cigs. And as I promised, we gave coverage to that on Monday night on Drips and Tips with Andy Abrook and Dave Dawn, and Richard. We're fortunate enough to have him on the show to explain what it was all about. I'm not going to go over all what he said again, because that would serve no purpose. If you missed it and you're curious, just look up last Monday's Drips and Tips It would have been the 23rd of Feb, I think. Yes, that's right. But basically, it was really quite exciting because the reason that we were giving that a little push was Richard, he needed to raise 1,500 quid, and I think as my show went on air, we'd managed to, it only managed to raise about half of that. But during the course of the show on Monday night on VTTV, he achieved his total of £1,500, which is to get him over to Chicago to present this stuff. And I just thought it was worth a little update because obviously we get repeats. We get repeat views after the live shows on YouTube and what have you. And I'm just finding the right page. I just thought it was worth mentioning and showing everybody that the total ended up at £1,700. So 1,500 was enough. 1,700 is obviously going to give him a bit of manoeuvring room. So 51 people, and probably 30 of those people at least were as a result of during last week's show. So I just wanted to add I was in chat and I said well done to everybody, but I'm here now and I just want to say thank you very much everybody for your generosity there. And of course, let's get the right camera. Of course, there is a payback. Richard, we wish you well. Go and give them hell, mate. So that's all I wanted to say on that, really. It's just well done, everybody. Aren't we ace? And by we, I mean all of us. Our chat is ace. When it works. I'll just give it a quick refresh. There we go. Last comment is chat's buggered, Max. Yeah, not wrong. But yes, so no, that was really genuinely a heartwarming thing. I'm really pleased about that. Now, I've got a couple of stories that I want to cover tonight. I think let's start with a simple one. You may recall a couple of weeks ago in the Daily Mail, it's probably about a week ago now, there was a story about a sort of middle-aged couple who were trying to adopt a child, and the whoever does these assessments, the British Association of Adoption and Fostering, the BAAF, whatever they call themselves, had decided to decline because their guidelines said that basically if you're using e-cigs then you're not suitable to adopt or foster a child. We gave that a little bit of coverage on VTTV and it was discussed a lot on forums and everything, and it genuinely was a shocking decision that they made. It was therefore quite heartwarming this morning when the Mail Online published this story. Let's get to it. The headline says, Adoption Chiefs U-turn over ban on placing young children with parents who use e-cigarettes. We'll ignore the byline, but because no, we won't. I know this is a good story, but any newspaper that feels the need to put in the byline, change came less than 24 hours after we published a story on issue. Enough said. But I'll read you the story because this is a good news story. It says, Adoption chiefs have ended a ban on young children being placed with e-cigarette users after the Mail on Sunday highlighted the misguided policy. Now, I don't recall them highlighting it as a misguided policy, I have to say, and a lot of the other headlines they've published, one could be forgiven for assuming that they thought it was a good policy, actually, not misguided, but let's let it roll, let it go, Dave, let it go. It says, last week, this newspaper told how a professional middle-aged couple had been barred from adopting after a social worker spotted the would-be father smoking an e-cigarette. And at least they've had the grace to put that smoking, in inverted commas. But last Monday, just 24 hours after we published our story, the British Association of Adoption and Fostering, the BAAF, updated to its guidance saying it had changed its e-cigarette policy. E-cigarettes do not produce smoke, and the passive risk to others from the vapour they emit is extremely low, according to a report last year by Public Health England. Neither is there any evidence to back up claims, widely held by e-cigarette critics, that they encourage children to try real cigarettes. Nonetheless, we revealed that at least a dozen councils across England had imposed blanket bans on placing under fives with e-cigarette users. The council cited guidance from the BAAF, which had recommended, quote, that users of e-cigarettes be considered as smokers until concerns about the devices were cleared up. But now, in the updates to its guidance, the BAAF stated, at the next meeting of our Health Group Advisory Committee, we will be recommending that fostering and adoption agencies now consider e-cigarettes as different to tobacco cigarettes. Agencies should therefore recognise the low risk to children and not see the use of e-cigarettes as a reason to preclude foster carers or adopters purely on this basis. Each circumstance should be risk assessed on an individual basis. It continued, e-cigarettes appear to have positive benefits for smokers when providing them with a route to abstinence, and the risk to children from passive smoke is lessened. However, this needs to be balanced against the risk of providing a model for the child of smoking now or in the future. We will continue to monitor research into e-cigarettes and will continue reviewing our recommendations. The BAAF said it had changed its guidance in light of the latest Public Health England report, which the Mail on Sunday cited in last week's article. Abigail and Brian, who went through a year-long adoption selection process with Staffordshire County Council, only to be turned down after Brian was spotted puffing on an e-cigarette last night, hailed the change as really good news. Abigail said, it's a shame for us that it took such lengths for things to change, but at least other couples should be spared what we went through. Robert West, we like Robert West, Professor of Health Psychology at University College London, who last week described the e-cigarette banning policy as misguided and unethical, said this is very welcome news and demonstrates the importance of ensuring that policy decisions are based on good information. Here, Robert. Anne McNeil, Professor of Tobacco Addiction at the Institute of Psychiatry in London, said, I welcome the change recommendation, in particular that e-cigarettes be considered different to tobacco cigarettes. E-cigarettes and cigarettes are indeed very different products in how they work, what they contain, what they emit, and their relative harmfulness. By making this change, BAAF will help people to understand that e-cigarettes are a less harmful alternative to deadly tobacco cigarettes. That, ladies and gentlemen, is bloody good news. Common sense has indeed prevailed here. I can't bring myself to say well done to the Daily Mail because, even if they did sort of question the policy last week, it was a fluke, wasn't it? It was a story, and I feel sure that if the BAAF had come out and said no, we absolutely stand by our decision, and in fact we're going to make the rules tighter, the Daily Mail would have taken the credit for that as well, for highlighting it. So I don't consider they're doing us any favours, but it is nice to see people like Professor West appearing more and more in these articles with his much more balanced approach and advice. So well done on that one. And congratulations to the couple. Just put yourself in their position where you're about to adopt a child and then somebody pulls the plug at the last minute. It's, you wouldn't want to be there, would you? Especially for such a ridiculous reason. So hopefully that will all get sorted out now. I think that's all I really wanted to say on that. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play a short video. This is basically this serves two purposes. This video, it's just under 10 minutes long, and it serves two purposes. The first one was I was playing with my DSLR camera. But secondly, I was on Twitter the other day, and something really got my goat, and I thought, I need to say something about this. So You'll see. I won't preempt. Watch this VT. Right, I'm going to have a bit of a rant. I'm going to start this rant off with some sad news, really. If you're a fan of Star Trek, which, thank the Lord, I am, you won't fail to have noticed that a couple of days ago, Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock in the original Star Trek series, passed away. The eventual cause of his death I don't know, but I do know that he was suffering with COPD. He tweeted occasionally on Twitter about that, and in his view at least, that he lays the blame for that at the cause of it was that he was a smoker. He hadn't smoked for 30 years before his death, but it seems that the damage he'd done to his lungs when he was a smoker caused the COPD, and you could tell, really, I think, if you look back through the tweets that he made over the last 12 months, that it wasn't a pleasant end to his life. And indeed, he started campaigning and trying to encourage people. And this guy's got a lot of followers on Twitter, a lot of fans around the world, and he seemed to have made it a priority to try and encourage other people to quit. Now, he commented a couple of times on e-cigs. He commented to say that he'd heard that people were handing out electronic cigarettes at concerts. He didn't say which concert, but stated again via Twitter that he thought this was a ploy to get people hooked on nicotine. He also acknowledged on another occasion that e-cigs, whilst they might help people quit, he was saying that, but they've still got nicotine in them, so be warned. So I think it's fair to say that he was sceptical, at least, about electronic cigarettes, which is a shame, but as somebody you'd see smoking 30 years before, it's an opinion that he's entitled to, and that would not cause me any offence at all. The reason I said I'm going to have a little bit of a rant is that within hours of the news breaking that he passed away, some opportunists took to social media and, to my mind at least, very distastefully started using his sad demise as a way of furthering their aims. Now, there were two specific comments, tweets that appeared on Friday that I'm going to mention. The first one, I'll get this out of the way first of all, was from e-cigs, and I can't show you the original tweet because it has been removed. But needless to say, that from the official e-cigs, the American e-cigs Twitter account, there was a comment about e-cigs being, and I think he said something about it in the colour of the Enterprise or sort of something like that. But basically, it came across to anybody that saw it as trying to use Nimoy's death to publicise their e-cigs. Now, as I say, that tweet has now been removed, so I can't show it to you. I think there's some screenshots out there, but I'm not going to dwell on it too much, for the simple reason this tweet appeared on this side. Just remember which way around the monitor is. This tweet appeared from e-cigs shortly thereafter, apologising for what they'd done, explaining that wasn't their intention. So fair play. It was ill considered. They recognise that and they've put it right. So sadly, also on Friday, again within hours of Nimoy's death, a tweet appeared from Professor Ruth Malone of the University of California, San Francisco. Who else do we know from there, huh? Ruth's position there, she's a professor of nursing and health policy. She also, in her own, looks like she wrote it herself, biography, overview on the UCSF website, described herself as Professor and Chairperson of Social and Behavioural Sciences. in the blurb, she says she's particularly interested in the strategic activities of US-based companies aimed at undermining health and tobacco control policy. So, in other words, she is the classic definition of anti-nicotine and tobacco zealot. And she works at the same place that somebody that rhymes with ants, but let's not go there in this particular rant. On Friday, she posted a tweet: Star Trek icon dead from tobacco-caused disease. Sad. And then she links to an article in Forbes, which does go on to say that. Now, when challenged on this, her reaction was, well, it's true, and Nimoy wanted people to know that smoking was bad for your health and all the rest of it. I, based on tweets and comments that have been made by the woman in the past, don't see it that way at all. There's no sympathy here. There was no remorse, no sort of, apart from that one word, sad. She's basically taken that sad event to publicise her own obsessive views on tobacco control. And when she was challenged on Twitter, and obviously there was a reaction to that, personally I suggested that it was a bit disgraceful, and that she pointed out she was trying to capitalise on this for her own aims. She replied with a tweet, because a few vapors suggested, I've had enough of that woman, I'm going to block her on Twitter. If you don't know what that means, it basically means you don't see what she tweets anymore. And she replied with a hashtag of glad to be blocked by you. She then went on, and I think in an effort to try and sort of justify herself, to retweet a load of Nimoy's own tweets about smoking. And as I said at the beginning of this little piece, he was sort of committed to encouraging people to give up, and she's retweeted a bunch of that stuff. But I can understand that there is some reserve within the public health sector, if you like. I'll call it the public health industry, because let's face it, it is an industry. They're continually trying to paint e-cigs as a big tobacco tool to get people hooked on nicotine. There's no evidence for any of this. We're getting kind of numb, and we're getting kind of better at rebutting some of this rubbish that these people come out with. But I think, to me, that was a new low point, to take a well-respected actor's death and use it to try and capitalise and publish a book, which, let's face it, are pretty sort of obsessive views that she's got. I'd check her out on the UCSF website. If you're a vapor, she's going to make your blood boil. That's the only thing I'll say. So you might choose not to bother. But to Professor Ruth Malone, shame on you. At least Blue Cigs had the good grace to admit their error, retract what they'd done, and apologise to people. If Leonard Nimoy's family want to come out and push the anti-smoking message as a result of this death, that's fair enough. But not somebody whose career depends on keeping us all sort of horrified. I don't see it any different, the Blue Cigs commercial angle or the public health self-perpetuation angle. It's all the same to me. So that's pretty much all I've got to say on this, because I could very easily start swearing here, and I don't want to stoop to that kind of level. But that's a new low for me, so nice one, Ruth Malone. I shall be blocking you on Twitter fairly soon.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Award-winning service and products from cloud9vaping.co.uk.
Vapors, Dripper just got 40% bigger. So if you love discovering new e-liquids, tell Dripper what flavours you like and we'll send you 70ml of juice and at least 5 flavours. With a money-back guarantee and free delivery anywhere in Europe, dripper.co.uk.
RY4 Radio.
And welcome back. Right, yes, so that was just some thoughts I had on the debacle, and in a malfunctioning chat room I can see that I think the majority of people agreed with me there. I've got nothing really to add to what I said in that little video. There's a line, and don't cross the line, you know. We as vapors get accused of being too aggressive and crossing the line, and you know, and being hysterical and all the rest of it. And you know, I genuinely have not come across a vapor trying to make any sort of capital out of that. So anyway, let's move on. I want to look at something that I noticed this afternoon actually, and the show on the YouTube description is entitled Something's Rotten in the Kingdom of Denmark. So copyright William Shakespeare, I know, but it seems appropriate. I only became aware of the story sort of late this afternoon. I spotted something on UK Vapors and also on Twitter. Somebody sort of flagged a link to it. And it concerns Denmark, an EU member state, who seem to be the first to be now starting to sort out how they intend to implement the changes to the TPD, the EU Tobacco Products Directive. Anybody that hasn't been living under a rock will know that there are a series of rules which member states are required to implement by 2016. A lot of the TPD, the way it is currently written, is open to interpretation, and a lot of it seems to be almost impossible to accommodate whilst preserving vaping as we know it. This is a big deal. So we've been waiting to see what the first ideas of the member state governments would be on how they're going to implement this. So this is a big deal. So before I actually flash up this document that has been published on the internet, I just want to give thanks to DADAFO, which obviously isn't an acronym for an English organisation, but it translates to the Danish Vapors Association, who have been kind enough to translate and summarise what's going on in a nice English language document, which I shall now get up on the screen. Let's go for the right camera shots. That's not the right camera shot. That's the right camera shot. Sorry, I was messing around with cameras earlier and I can't find anything now. So this is a the title says it all. It's been published by the Danish Vapers Association, DADAFO, and it's entitled A Short Description of the Danish Law Proposal Regarding Implementation of the TPD. And I'm going to read it in full because I think it's important. I'll pop the link here into our chat room simply because I forgot to prime the backroom team to do it for me, and I do know that we're having problems with chat, but we'll make sure that this link is available if you haven't seen it already, that is, but it's in the chat room for now. I'll read it in full. It says Denmark has just started a hearing on a new law proposal about implementing the TPD in about as draconian a way as possible. Hearing runs until the 20th of March, so that's 3 weeks away, and then there will be 3 rounds of negotiations amongst politicians, and it's supposed to be implemented in November. So far, it seems as if there's a general goodwill towards the proposal, probably because of the 18-year rule alone. The general misconception is that it's a good law because it will make nicotine-containing products legal in Denmark as tobacco products, as opposed to the current situation where nicotine-containing liquids are illegal but sold anyways. Some of the proposals. No sales to individuals below the age of 18. Okay, so I'll just interject there. We know that the UK government is making its own move on that, so we're likely to see that in the UK, and I dare say in all of the EU member states anyway. Second one, e-cigarettes with and without nicotine will be covered under the non-smoking laws equivalent to smoking. Now, he says in smoke-free laws in Denmark means no smoking in bars except very small facilities, work facilities, offices, public offices, taxis, schools, clubs, private or public, work vehicles that are used by more than one person, ships and offshore platforms, basically everywhere that is indoors with the exception of private homes and smoking rooms or cabinets. Outside smoking is still legal, except for areas surrounding education environments such as schools, but can be changed by local rules, guidelines. The Danish smoke-free law is more or less a direct implementation of the FCTC recommendations, FCTC being the Framework Convention on Tobacco. No, I've got that right. The Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. It's a WHO initiative. So just comment on that. Looks as though Denmark's smoke-free laws are not entirely dissimilar to the UK and certainly Germany and Ireland and a few other places I know. We know that they're talking about sort of banning smoking in public parks where kids would play in schools and everything. So it's quite similar there. The significant thing for me there is that because they're going to be classified as a tobacco product, now the smoking ban now applies to vaping in Denmark if this proposal is accepted. On to the next one. All private and public companies are required to establish a written smoking and now vaping policy that at the very least specifies where and when smoking and vaping is allowed, as well as the consequences of not following the policy. He says, please note that companies are not allowed to circumvent the smoke-free laws in these policies. They can only make stricter interpretations, such as disallowing smoking on company grounds, which is not uncommon. For instance, it's not allowed to smoke currently in most amusement parks, except in designated areas, and many government employees have been banned from smoking anywhere, including in private areas or outside between workplaces during work hours. So again, that sounds like pretty similar to what we've got here in the UK, doesn't it? And the fourth point is a complete ban on advertising, sponsoring and name brand usage outside of shops. With non-specialised shops, the products must be put out of view of the customers and only available on demand. Currently here, the ASA are saying, subject to certain limitations, that e-cigarettes can be advertised, and they are being advertised. But the TPD, as it's written, says that won't be allowed to happen. Denmark have obviously decided just to go with it. Next point, rules that are required for all hardware or parts of hardware that can be used to vaporise liquid that might contain nicotine. That's quite a telling phrase, isn't it? That might contain nicotine. No tanks greater than 2 mil. Those tanks have to be completely leak-free. Filling mechanism that ensures that leaks cannot occur, and child-safe tanks and e-cigs. The comment is, as far as we can tell, this would entail that almost 100% of all vaping equipment currently on the market becomes illegal. The interpretation of the TPD that non-liquid filled tanks aren't covered is thus ignored, and tanks will fall under the law no matter if they are sold with or without liquid. Notice the might part, which means that it does not matter if you sell for nicotine-based usage. I'm just noticing that you perhaps can't see some of that, so I'll scroll the page up. But this is basically our worst fear, wasn't it? That the member states would just basically read the TPD as it stands. We often maintain that it's impossible to come up with a totally leak-free device. I think that certain member states aren't going to care about that. They're going to say, that's fine, you can't sell them then. It is a de facto ban. Regardless of what people might tell you, if this gets adopted in Denmark, there are going to be no more tanks, are there? Because where is it going to be, how's this leak-free device going to be actually, who's got one, We know the answer to that, don't we? E-liquid can only be sold in 10 ml refill containers and bottles or 2 ml pre-fill containers and cartomizers. All products and parts of products must be registered at the relevant government body, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that Danish word there for fear of offending any Danish friends. It says failure to do so will result in stiff fines of 50,000 Danish kroner mentioned, but proposed to be based on revenue, so that suggests to me it might be bigger. And they'll automatically be the toughest fines, since this is a product that could put children in danger under the definition of the law. All products individually must be registered 6 months before they are sold. Registration starts in November when the laws go into effect. There is no grandfathering for existing products. Right, so as is pointed out here, so as the law stands, all e-cig hardware will be illegal for 6 months after the law goes into effect, since no products are registered and registration must be 6 months before sale. They've really thought this through, haven't they? And what worries me is maybe they have really thought this through. If a company outside Denmark wants to sell to a customer in Denmark, then they must go through the same registration process, i.e. there is a wall in import-export. Otherwise sales will be illegal and prosecuted under the TPD. This is the cross-border sales references in the TPD. Product registration is for each sub-part sold and will cost 30,000 kroner. That's estimated here at about 4,000 euros for each sub-part sold. Okay, that's 4,000 euros per product for the first year, and then 10,000 kroner or 1,300 euros for each subsequent year it is marketed. So they've got to pay an ongoing sort of licensing fee for every product that they sell. Products will need to be re-registered if major changes are done. For e-liquids, this could be changing from one producer of aniseed aroma to another. Any kind of innovation on the parts used for vaping, be it equipment or liquids, will be stifled, and any incentive for product development will be stopped effectively. It says for e-liquids, this means that each variant will have to be registered individually. If you have a 60-40 PG-VG, a 40-60 and 100% VG variant, then each of those three juices would have to be registered, as well as for each nicotine variant and for each flavour variant. E-liquid producers must register all ingredients, a toxicology report and an emissions report for each and every variant. Rules describing what the reports must contain will not be available to producers before the end of 2015. I will make sure that link is around the place so you can read that for yourself and see the source of the information. I would just want to say a huge thank you to Kim and Peter, who are the people credited at the bottom, for putting that document together. I guess this is really this is the worst case scenario. This is what we worried about, and this is what Linda McAvan said wouldn't happen. You know, we've got in that document there, if those proposals are basically, they've just taken the TPD and thought, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Okay, if that goes through without being watered down at all, there are several reasons in there which states that the common, the most popular e-cig products will not be available after November in Denmark. There will be a lot of governments watching to see what Denmark do, as they appear to be going first, how they get on, what the political connotations of it are, and dare I say, you know, get an idea of what they can get away with. If this were introduced, any country that this is introduced in is effectively a ban on vaping as we know it today. It does occur to me that there is one product on the market which might get away with all of this stuff, and it's made by a company with all those stipulations, 2 mil, you know, pretty much leak free, it's not refillable, and it's marketed by a company who really aren't going to have a problem with those registration fees. We're talking about BAT and their vape product. If that goes through as it's written there, as those proposals are written, then that's pretty much all that will be left legally, is the vape. And even that is a bit dubious, but I've got a funny feeling they'll buy their way through it. The registration fees mentioned there, they don't seem like huge sums of money until you consider that even a small brick and mortar shop, right, has to stock a wide range of nicotine strengths, flavours, blends of you know, PG, VG, PEG, whatever people want to use. You know, that it would cost them far more than they can make in profit. Even if the some organisations are big enough and have the clout and have enough turnover to actually to survive this, you can see the price of your e-liquid going through the roof, can't you? China will continue to innovate and make stuff, and the likelihood is we'll be able to get a hold of it, but it'll be illegal, and that's not right. So anybody that had forgotten about the TPD, anybody that's thinking, it's not going to be as bad as all that, acquaint yourself with that document and seriously ask yourself what you're basing your hopes on. We need to keep making noise. We need to be in continual touch with our politicians, our MEPs and our MPs, and we need to make it very clear to them that we do not accept that, and if they try that, then they're going to meet resistance. And I just want to send my best wishes to the vapors in Denmark. I hope you can make enough noise. I hope you can get some resistance together, and I hope that you can shoot those proposals down. So best of luck from us. We're going to take another break now. I'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Healthy Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and e-liquids. Proud sponsors of vaping entertainment on Vapor Trails TV.
What's in this e-cig cloud? Harmless water vapour, right? Pretty much, yes. Compared to a lit cigarette, it's much safer than smoke. But it contains nicotine, and nicotine on its own isn't toxic and doesn't cause cancer. If you're worried about switching to vapour, here are some facts. No tar, no smoke, no burnt tobacco. Cooking your evening meal produces more toxins than are found in exhaled vapour. Tobacco smoke contains toxins at very high levels, and vapour does not. And that vapour contains 6,000 times less carcinogens than cigarette smoke. Electronic cigarette vapour. There's nothing to be frightened of. The only dangerous electronic cigarette is a banned one.
Just a couple of things to add very quickly to the document that we were just looking at there about Denmark. First of all, Kim Dabelstein Peterson is in our chat room and suggesting that yes, prices could go up significantly. And so hi Kim, and thank you for putting that together for us. I hope that document will provoke a lot of thought. Read the document. I see Sav's put the link in chat there. Read it, tweet it, Facebook it, stick it on forums. Let's make sure that people are aware. I don't think a little bit of a kick up the arse for vapors throughout the EU would do any harm at the moment. It's also a good time to remind you that there is some resistance being organised, and the only sort of way that you can get involved with that, apart from going to your politicians, as I said before, is to support, and I'm going to try and get the right camera shot this time, Totally Wicked's legal challenge. They're not asking for money, you know, it's not going to cost you anything. Get yourself along to article20legalchallenge.com. Totally Wicked are planning a legal challenge to these proposals. Until I read differently, I assume that those proposals, as they're being discussed in Denmark, are they going to be the same everywhere in the EU? Because that's what they want. They want a standard, and that means they want everybody to do the same, so there will be pressure to do it. Article20legalchallenge.com. If you haven't signed up yet, why the hell not just do it? Moving along very quickly because I'm running out of time. I'm going to slightly lighten the mood now. We've got a bit of video here from Dave and Sav. The number 10, would you believe, in the Thinking and Driving series. It's called Lungs and Mouth, and here we go.
Keith was around yesterday and we had a conversation talking about your, what is it you've got on there?
Delta tank on here.
Delta tank.
Yeah.
I'm just having a try of yours and was struck by the fact that I needed to do a mouth inhale.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise just how much lung inhaling I actually do, direct inhale into the lungs. And for, I suppose we ought to explain really what lung inhaling is and mouth inhaling is for benefit of those that don't know the difference.
Lung inhaling was one that it took me a while to understand that it's basically breathing.
Yes.
Someone had just told me it's breathing, and I might have figured it out soon, but I couldn't.
It is.
I could not understand, and I still have to consciously think about it before I do it. It doesn't come natural to me yet.
What, breathing?
Yeah, it's odd. Considering I've been doing it for a long time.
I've got to admit, the first time I ever used an aqua lung, and this is going back a fair few years, because I was a smoker, I tried to mouth it. It was, if you like, the mouth to lung is like using a straw with your Kia Ora in the cinema. So you suck it into your mouth, then you breathe it as though you were swallowing. Not swallowing. We used to call it swallowing when I was young.
Yeah.
Do you swallow your top smoking? No. I have a larger vocabulary. I inhale it. Whereas, as you say, a lung inhale, you're just basically breathing with your e-cig and your gerb, as it were. Yeah. So, as I say, Keith was round, and I don't know what it was, I gave him to try. Sub-tank. It was a sub-tank, because Jill's been trying a sub-tank, nickel coiled, on a DNA 40, on a Vapor Shark, because she likes the Vapor Shark.
Yeah.
It's neat. And I've come to the conclusion that unless you've got your temperature control set reasonably high, like 500 Fahrenheit or whatever that is in centigrade, I really can't remember.
Not a clue.
250 I think. No. Yeah, 250, 260, something like that. You need it up there, otherwise there's not enough airflow to cool the coil to keep it within the temperature control area. It's still, you know, protected. You're still not going to get any nasties, but it does change around how you're using it. But you were saying this was what was putting Cat off.
Yeah, because Cat always mouth inhales. She doesn't like lung inhales at all, so doesn't know if something like the DNA 40 would just be a waste of money.
Well, from the no, I don't think it would be, but that's maybe a slightly different conversation. What occurred to me was, these aren't fags.
No, they're not.
They're not cigarettes.
No.
They are something different, and the fact that there is a different way to do the using of them might indeed be a good thing. For instance, Gord's in chat
Yeah.
doesn't know what a mouth inhale is.
No.
Lung inhales only.
Yes.
And apparently did so with fags, rolled his own.
Yeah.
And thinking back to the days of my youth at the university, not the University of Life, when Mary Jane was introduced to yours truly. You lung inhaled that, and I never thought twice about it, even though I'd been smoking, what, about 8 years by the time I got to Mary Jane.
Yeah. That's actually very true. I never thought about that.
It didn't occur to me that there was any other way.
Yeah.
It was an ordinary mouth to lung with cigarettes, but with Mary Jane, you lunged it. You just lunged it. That's what you did.
Yeah.
And now I'm bearing left to Manchester now. In terms of e-cigs and mods and sub-tanks and Atlantises and cloud chasing drippers and all of that kind of stuff, I'm lung inhaling on all of those, and it doesn't feel markedly different in terms of my enjoyment.
Yeah.
But if I've got something that requires... Shut up, woman, I know where I'm going.
She's got a lot to say.
Shahar, she never shuts up.
No.
Gobby cow.
Totally.
Yeah, in terms of devices, I mean, I can switch between mouth inhale and lung inhale at the drop of a hat, and you do just by the draw.
Mm-hmm.
But Kat's always been fond of the tighter drag, has she not?
Yeah, she does. And I mean, I've only recently started lung inhaling. I was always mouth inhale as well, but as I said, it's because I didn't understand it. And I decided one night to try this whole magical lung inhale formula. And it was a bad idea because I tested it on my super strength menthol. My lungs were freezing cold for 3 days afterwards. But I kind of liked it at the same time. It was really quite strange.
Yes.
And now, as you say, I'll swap between either mouth inhale or lung inhale depending on what device I'm using. And a lot of the times I think I prefer the sensation of the lung inhale rather than the mouth to lung.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I mean, Keith was saying that there was just no way on the face of this planet was he going to be lung inhaling, because he uses e-cigs as a one-to-one substitute for smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
That's the way it is, and I would think that wasn't me.
It certainly wasn't me.
It wasn't me. I would think that anybody that's dual using, that's of a certain age, shall we say, is less likely to move towards a lung inhale. But I think it could well, in the future, become the way people use e-cigs. And the reason I say that is because, as we know, assuming the Totally Wicked challenge fails, and I don't think it will, but let's assume it does, we're going to be stuck with what a week e-liquid.
Yeah.
It's going to be, in practice, it's going to be 18 milligram.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to take a chance on their 20 milligram being slightly over and ended up in court over it.
No.
So it's going to be 18. And I've got 18 in here.
Yeah.
And this will lung all day long, and it works for me. Yeah. And it works for me because the density of the vapour I'm getting is at least twice what I was getting from a mouth inhale, and I'm getting so much more of it.
Yeah.
Mouth inhale, you're probably looking at a maximum of 50 to 60 millilitres of vapour.
Maximum, yeah.
Whereas with a lung inhale, 2-3 litres?
Yeah, at least.
So you're getting 2 to 3 litres, let's say, of quite dense vapour, carrying an awful lot more nicotine, I would imagine, than you would get from 50 or 60 mils. Yeah, it could well be the way to go. It's just another way of using them.
Yeah.
It's not cloud chasing either.
No, I'm not interested in cloud chasing. I mean, yeah, sometimes I'll sit and can be highly entertained with clouds, but the novelty wears off very quickly. It's just, as you say, another way of using them. and it is quite satisfying.
Going well, that thing. I've run out of time. It's time to go. I'll be back same time, same place next week. Until then, thanks for watching. Good night.